I am Ashley Wilson, and this is Molly Thomas, and together she and I are the financial aid team for Crosby Scholars. We're so excited you're here. Thanks for joining us this evening. We've got some info I hope you'll be excited about, some good information on just presenting basic types of financial aid info, things that parents of both middle schoolers and early high school students are thinking about right now. And of course, we'll save some time for you all for questions at the end. We also have a very, very short little survey at the end as well that we ask that you please fill out. Helps us have an idea of who's coming to our webinars, what kinds of info we can provide in the future, and good things like that. So I'll give maybe just another quick second for folks to come on in, and then we'll go ahead and get started. All right, guys, I'm going to turn off my video here real quickly, but then we'll just go ahead and jump right in. You know, I speak with a whole lot of parents all the time as the financial aid coordinator, and I tend to hear a lot of the same kinds of questions really frequently. So some of tonight's slides you will see will come from questions that I know parents are thinking about, and maybe you guys are too. And many parents will ask me these kinds of questions we'll see tonight. So kind of the first one that pops into my head is, you know, what can I do right now? Like, well, how can I make rising college costs really affordable for my family? What kinds of things do you think we should focus on as parents of middle and high schoolers? And so what I let them know is that I believe learning and planning ahead are really two of the most powerful things that you can do to help your student and your family prepare for the financial aspect of higher ed. And so as you'll see on this slide, the first thing, really kind of basic thing that you want to think about would be the cost of attendance, or the COA. And this figure represents the yearly cost to attend a college or a university. And so this figure can include a lot of things. It's a big picture, like high level figure, and it includes things like tuition, fees. It can include books and supplies, transportation fees, loan fees, costs of healthcare even. And a reasonable allowance for personal things like the cost of maybe a laptop or a personal computer. You can get a really good idea of what the cost of attendance is at various types of schools by looking at these two links that I've got here for you kind of on the top of the page. College Scorecard and Big Future are two really great resources that will give you a side-by-side cost analysis. And so that's a really great way to just familiarize yourself with the different costs that are associated with different types of schools. So think like public schools, private schools, in-state and out-of-state schools. And so that's a really great tool to see those things side by side and help you compare one to the other. The next idea would be a North Carolina 529 savings plan. And these types of plans are a really great way to help you save money. So 529 plans, they're administered by College Foundation. So you may have heard of CFNC before. That's College Foundation of North Carolina. And the money inside your 529 plan will grow tax-free if that money is used for specific qualified education expenses. So here, this graphic that we're looking at, you can see what some of those qualified expenses are. So you can see it can cover even K-12 tuition, apprenticeship programs, trade school, special needs equipment, all kinds of different things. So that the use has expanded over the years. So now they include more things besides just undergraduate tuition, but you can see that here. And for more information, of course, about how to open a plan, specific questions, rules, regulations, those sorts of things, you can head over to cfnc.org. And that's the address here that you see kind of on the right-hand column. So many of you all may have or probably have heard of financial aid for school, but you might not know where to begin. Others might be navigating financial aid for the first time. So maybe this is, your first child who will go to college. Maybe the process even looks different since you were in college. But the big picture is you're kind of unsure of how to get started. So the very best place to start is with the free application for federal student aid, or the FAFSA form. So this form will allow you to submit information about your family to know if your student is eligible to receive federal student aid. The FAFSA form is actually required by most colleges and universities, but not all. And it is typically completed by both the high school senior student and their parents during the fall of their senior year. So next question, how can parents find out if they qualify for loans? Well, it's very, very common for financial aid to not cover the full cost of attending a college or a university. In fact, it's so common that it really happens most of the time. Financial aid is really and truly designed to supplement the money that would be provided by the student's parents, and the parents are considered the very first source of funding for college. So this might come as a surprise to you, and it certainly does to a lot of parents that I speak with, a lot of families. But when they review their FAFSA results or their information, this is not something they were expecting. So I find that many families kind of arrive with the expectation that the FAFSA will provide full financial coverage. But like I said, this rarely happens. Students, of course, can receive full scholarships or a full ride to school, and of course that's different. But please just go into the process knowing that financial aid is designed to supplement. So please be prepared with additional support measures that will help your student pay for college. With that said, I want to go over the different types of funding for parents. And one type of funding for parents is called a Federal Parent Plus loan. This is a type of federal loan that can be used to supplement your student's financial aid package. And so another option would be a private or an alternative loan, which could be a loan that perhaps you might find at a bank that you have a relationship with. A lot of parents will ask me, well, how do we know, which one is best? How do you pick? And personally, I would suggest a plus loan for a couple of reasons. And it's because, one, plus loans tend to have a lower interest rate than private loans. And reason two would be that they also tend to have more favorable repayment options than would a private loan or a type of loan that you would receive from a bank. So if you must borrow a parent loan, any kind of loan to help cover your students' educational expenses, I would suggest that it's a Federal Parent Plus loan. So lastly, I want to mention, outside of these two options, you can also negotiate a payment plan with the business office, which is like the office that deals with student accounts. Sometimes it's called the bursar's office. But anyway, all the same thing, the business office or student accounts at a college or a university will allow you to set up a payment plan, which would allow you to pay any balance that you owe for your student on an installment basis. So they'll allow you to divide up the total amount into more manageable chunks, if you will, that are either due across the course of maybe a semester or maybe the full academic year. So parents, this is a question that I get all the time. Parents will also ask me, well, why do I need to help my child fill out the financial aid form? So the reason that parents need to help students submit the FAFSA is because even though the FAFSA is intended to be used by the student, they still need parent help. And largely this is because most students will be what's called a dependent student for FAFSA purposes. And if you are a dependent student for FAFSA purposes, this means that parental information is required on the form. A lot of folks will confuse terms and they'll say, well, I claim my child as a dependent on my tax return, so that has to mean something, right? Well, yes. So of course we're using the same term, dependent, but in the financial aid world, in the FAFSA world, the word dependent means something completely different than what it would mean on your tax return. So for FAFSA purposes, it does not matter who claims the child on your tax return as dependent. This is a completely different thing. It's just using the same word. So next, the FAFSA form's purpose really is to capture a family's ability to pay for college or university. And they use this with an index that represents a family's financial strength. So the key word I want you all to remember is that it represents a family's ability to pay and not their willingness to pay. So I get a lot of parents who see that expected family contribution, which is that index that I just mentioned, and they say, oh no, I can't afford this number. This number is too high, $1,000, $10,000, whatever it may be. However, remember that number is based on their financial strength, which is their ability to pay and not necessarily their willingness to pay. Last, parents who help their students submit the FAFSA form are not obligated in any way to contribute or pay anything toward their student costs. Submitting the FAFSA form with your student just simply allows that student the chance to qualify for federal student aid. It's really important to understand the various different types of financial aid that the FAFSA can provide. Many people believe that the words financial aid only refer to those types of free money available to students, so like scholarships or grants. And all those scholarships and grants are a part of a financial aid package. So are loans and federal work study. And I'll talk to you about each of these and what they are. But FSEOG, which stands for Federal Supplemental Educational Opportunity Grants, are those types of grants that are set aside for students who demonstrate high financial need. And then TEACH grants are a type of grant that can be used to help students enter the education field, so like public education teachers in our state, with the understanding that students who use this grant will teach for a certain number of years in a certain area, like in our state. Otherwise, those grants will turn into a loan that is required to be repaid. Lastly, another type of grant is the Iraq and Afghanistan Service Grant, and those grants are designed for children whose parents served military duty in those particular areas. Another type of financial aid is called federal work study. And it is a work study program that allows students to work on campus. It's typically around 10 or so hours per week, so it's always part-time. And it's generally at an on-campus job they try very hard to give students a job that has something to do, something meaningful to do with their major. So maybe, if they're an education major, they might work in an education office doing clerical work. If they're a music major, they might be helping out in the music department. But at any rate, these are for students. They're not obligated to take or use any of it if they don't want. But federal work study is a really good idea if you're looking for debt-free ways to fund college, so ways that you don't have to repay. And work study can also be useful just to have a little bit of extra money on hand, just for those kinds of personal things that students will need. So, it could be small things like they need an extra book for a class, or they need gas money to drive back and forth to a lab or something like that. You can also use the money for little personal expenses like that. And finally, federal student loans are, of course, intended for students, and they are loans that are backed by the federal government, and they're provided to students to help them fund their their education costs. Eligibility for these particular types of loans are determined by the information that the student and the family submits on the FAFSA form. So if you believe at all that you might utilize federal student loans as an option, make sure that you fill out the FAFSA. This is the only way to give your student the chance to use those kinds of loans. And these types of loans, federal student loans, are very, very common. It's a very common way to cover college costs. And again, it's if the student has to borrow a type of loan, again, federal student loans offer the lowest interest rates and best repayment terms of any other loan that they might be able to get at their age. I wanted to show you all just a really simple overview of the financial aid process, but please know that you don't need to focus too much on this right now. I just wanted to give you some information. I'm a firm believer in the more information you receive, the better, so here we are. But as we've discussed, know that filling out the FAFSA is the first step. The second would be reviewing the student aid report, or the SAR. This is important in making sure that all the information that you provide on the FAFSA is accurate. And so this is what you'll want to review just to make sure that everything looks correct, that you didn't maybe accidentally make a mistake or something. You'll have the opportunity to review all the information on the FAFSA by looking at this student aid report. Next would be reviewing the financial aid offer, or the financial aid package. And that is where you will find out about the various different types of financial aid that your student is offered at each school. And so sometimes there is a next step, and it's called verification. And this is just think of it as just a method that schools use to also confirm accurate information provided on the FAFSA. So if you find that your student is selected for verification, don't worry. It does not mean that they did anything wrong. It's just an additional review process. Later in the spring of senior year, the student will let the colleges that they applied to know if they plan to attend. And then lastly, remember that the FAFSA form is a yearly form that represents just one academic year. So you'll want to remember to submit the FAFSA form every single year in October, as long as your student is enrolled in college or university. So the scholarship question, right? Probably what you all are here for. Most parents that I speak with are very interested in scholarship opportunities, and I can't blame them. In my opinion, scholarship opportunities, scholarship funding are among the best ways to pay for college. Since scholarships are free money, I would suggest that you try and encourage your student to dedicate some time to researching and applying for as many scholarship opportunities as they can. Specifically, junior year of the high school timeline is a good place to begin, while senior year is probably the most popular time that students start. However, I would certainly certainly suggest rather starting earlier if you can. So definitely start that junior year if you're able. The more time you have to think about and research and prepare the scholarship applications, the better. There's some really great resources that you can use to narrow down your search, and I've put those here for you. Some really wonderful ones that I love and that I use all the time and recommend to parents are CFNC that we already talked about, like College Foundation of North Carolina. There's another scholarship search engine, and it's called FastWeb, and it will allow you to specify some search criteria. So let's just say your student maybe is a high achiever who is into dance, and they're the first in your family to go to college. So maybe you would use the search terms first generation college student to help you narrow down scholarships that are just for first generation college students. Or maybe you search for merit-based scholarships, which are just scholarships that focus on high academic achievers with a certain GPA. The take home is that there's all kinds of information out there. There's a lot of scholarship information out there, especially on the internet. And it's really helpful to have something that allows you to kind of narrow down all of those opportunities and focus on the ones that fit best. So that's why I really like these search engine aggregators. They help you kind of narrow the field a bit and concentrate on what's going to be best fit for your student. Next is the Winston-Salem Foundation, which is a local organization. It is a organization that has over 100 different scholarship opportunities that are just for students in Forsyth County. You can find them at wsfoundation.org. They're a really great organization. We recommend to everybody. Take a look there. Of course, these are going to be just for seniors who start in their senior year, but you can look at their opportunities anytime on their webpage. They don't change a whole lot from year to year. So maybe if you're a junior parent, you can take a peek at those beginning in January of this year and kind of put together a game plan or a battle plan for next year. Pull together 4 or 5 scholarships that you think maybe your student would be a good fit for, and just put those on your calendar and know, okay, we're going to apply to these 4 around this time frame when they are senior, and you've already done some of your research. If you are the parent of a middle schooler tonight, there's still some things, of course, that you can do. You might want to encourage them to join extracurriculars to help them find out and pinpoint what kinds of things they're passionate about. Or you might want to encourage them to start forming relationships with their guidance counselors, with student leaders. All of these things are going to help give them those kinds of soft skills that they will develop as middle schoolers that will only help them and prepare them for what's to come in high school and in college. Next, you're probably wondering about how Crosby Scholars can help your student afford college. So first, if you're a middle school mama, the Crosby Scholars middle school program will encourage and teach your middle schoolers, like I said, those really crucial soft skills, things like study habits. There are also leadership opportunities in the program. The things that they're learning now as a middle schooler will really help them prepare for high school and eventually for college enrollment. So encourage your child to stay with the program, to engage with the program as they move through their middle school and their high school experience. Next, if you're a high school parent, Crosby Scholars gives over 30 scholarship opportunities specifically created for Crosby Scholars seniors. And those are provided to seniors during the fall of their senior year through their Crosby Scholars student portal. And so, like I said, these opportunities are only for our Crosby Scholars seniors, so don't let your student miss out. Another really, really awesome opportunity is called Crosby Scholars Last Dollar Grant. You may have heard of this one before. It is a really great way to help cover college costs. Just so you have kind of an idea of the amount of funding, we actually awarded over $171,000 last year to students in the form of last dollar grants, and we expect to provide that or even more this year. And so a thing that you should know is that last dollar grants are a need-based grant, which means that we will ask for some of your FAFSA information when we're reviewing your application. So that means you have to first apply for the FAFSA to be eligible to apply for our last dollar grant. But it's a really great program that can award up to $1,200 per year for up to 4 years of undergraduate study. So remind yourself when this opportunity comes, it is around end of April, early May of the senior year in high school, and then they can reapply every single year while they are in college. Here's just a couple of great graphics, a quick snapshot of those scholarship opportunities that I talked about, the Crosby specific ones. And as you can see on this graphic on the left-hand side, we have so many different types of scholarships. They're all for different things. None of them are just one thing. I'm super confident that your student will be able to find opportunities that really speak to them. We have academic scholarships, we have school-based scholarships, we have scholarships for those with financial need, first-generation college students. We have scholarships that are just purely essay-based or based on service. So there's, like I said, a little bit of something for everyone. You can take a look at these areas and just kind of know, okay, if my student is a really great writer, maybe we'll focus on those essay-based scholarships. Or my student has a love for service and they're very, very active in the community. Maybe we'll focus on those community service-based scholarships. So it's designed to just help you kind of quickly at a glance determine some scholarship opportunities that you'll look out for. To be really honest, I only expect to have even more opportunities when you all reach your senior year. Every single year, we are excited to offer more scholarship opportunities, so you'll have an even larger pool to pick from whenever you make it to senior year. Last, I want to mention that Crosby Scholars students will also have access to a really unique resource. So they're going to have a professional financial aid advisor who can provide individual financial aid advising sessions, help with form completion, with keeping you up to date with all things financial aid related. We have so many wonderful and unique opportunities that are available to your student. And remember, they're no cost, they're free, right? So we really encourage your students and parents to attend these sessions if you're able. Really and truly, all you need to do to receive help in these ways is just to reach out to the financial aid team. And so nearing the end here of the slides, you know, I like to put kind of a take-home slide. If you take any one thing away from tonight's presentation, then I would hope that it would be to advocate for your student. I really know and believe that you all wouldn't be here tonight if you weren't already doing this very thing. So you are already on a great track, and I would encourage you to continue to have those conversations with your student to let them know early on how you plan to help them pay for college. Be as honest as you can, be straightforward. We understand that financial information is sensitive, and I'm not saying, lay it out on the table, but rather just have those conversations about maybe which schools are possible, which schools are a bit of reach, or which schools might be completely out of the picture. Students really want to know this information. They may not ask you up front, but if going from what they're telling me is that they really want to be involved in these kinds of conversations. So try to help your student and be involved in that way. Be their cheerleader, be their advocate, help them get through senior year. And I really, really think as a team and with the help of Crosby Scholars, financial aid, all of our various programs, you'll be on the right track. You'll be doing great when it is time to enroll in college. Here are some of the scholarship resources and some of those cost estimators that we talked about at the very beginning of the presentation. These are really good ways to get ideas and to help you create starting points for finding information and strategies about college funding. So if you'd like to see what's out there, you can visit any of these websites. If you'd like, I'd recommend just pulling out your phone now and maybe taking a picture of this particular slide. These are all really good resources to have. Of course, like I said, this webinar will be recorded as well, so you can refer to it anytime you need. And so I'll leave this up here just for a second in case anyone wants to take a quick photo.